All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we talk a little bit about a defensive end who has hit the market who could absolutely help the 49ers. We'll talk about him coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video is brought to you by LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less, whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high demand field. LearnKey Upskill Academy has over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. They've been in business for 37 years. They've helped over 200,000 students. They place about 100 a month in well-paying jobs. So thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring this video. All right, let's talk a little bit about a guy who is now a free agent, and it's Ogbo Okoronkwo, who's a 30-year-old defensive end who the Browns released on Thursday. This was a guy who, you know, and there he was truly a cap casualty. I mean, Cleveland's got Myles Garrett, they've got Isaiah McGuire, they have Alex Wright, who played 4 games for them last year. They also signed Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. They have Julian Akwara, Cam Thomas. They also drafted Aiden Huntington from Tulane, and they have Ellerson Smith as well. So they're pretty fortified at defensive end. And Okoronkwo, they signed him to a contract not that long ago. It was a 3-year, $19 million contract that he signed with Cleveland in the 2023 offseason, and he had no guaranteed money left on his deal. So this move essentially saves the Browns $8 million over the next 2 years. So he's a cap casualty. But this is a guy that I think could help the 49ers. Why? Okay, first of all, Cleveland under Jim Schwartz runs the wide nine. And this guy's got experience in the Niners scheme in that wide nine. His first year with Cleveland, he had 12 tackles for loss. This is a guy who can still play. He's got experience in the wide nine. PFF ranked Cleveland's defensive line 7th overall in the NFL. So it's a pretty good defensive line that he's on. He had 7.5 sacks with the Browns. He's a rotational player. This last year, 2024, he had 23 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 6 hits on the quarterback. He had a $6 million roster bonus coming his way in August. The Browns obviously wanted to avoid paying him that $6 million roster bonus. And so he's a free agent. This is a guy who played with a torn pec, so he's tough. He's only missed 4 games, though, in the last 2 years. So he's shown up and he's played. He went to Oklahoma. He was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. In fact, we'll share the screen and show you a little bit of his Oklahoma film here. This is him from his days at University of Oklahoma. And he's just a really good football player. I mean, he was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. His family's from Nigeria, and he's just a tremendous athlete. 6'2", about 255, 260. He played with the Rams from 2018 through 2021, won a Super Bowl with the Rams, then played well with the Texans in 2022. He played with the Browns in 23 and 24, 17 career sacks in the NFL. He had 21 career sacks in 46 college games at Oklahoma. He's an excellent athlete. He really is. He tested as an excellent athlete coming out in the draft. He had 38-inch vertical, 27 reps of 225. So he's a great athlete. There's no question about that. And he's played with the Rams, and then most recently he's played in the Niners scheme in that wide nine for the Browns. And if you look at the 49ers depth chart, I think there's reason to believe that Okoronkwo could possibly make the 49er roster. And he definitely, you can never have enough defensive ends. You can never have enough pass rush. And here's a guy who's got experience playing in the wide nine and has had success rushing the passer. We will stop sharing the screen on the video. but I will share the screen on the 49er depth chart. And if you take a look at the Niner depth chart at defensive end, so what do you have? You have Nick Bosa. Okay, obviously he's your star. He's one of your starting defensive ends. On first and second down, you got Mikael Williams, who you just drafted in the first round, but you don't really know what he's going to give you. You have Bryce Huff, who's your third down guy, so that's defensive end number 3. You have Yatir Gross-Matos, who can rush inside or outside. Then you have Sam Aquinu. And Sam Aquinu is, an interesting rusher, 270 pounds, tough. You have Robert Beal, who's your 5th-round pick in 2025, but he hasn't done it yet. You have Teron Jackson, who was a street free agent, signed last December. And you have Jonathan Garvin, who hasn't really shown much in a limited sample size with the 49ers, but he's hung around in the NFL. So you look at that and you say, well, you haven't played a single down of practice. You haven't played a single preseason game. And right now you have Bosa, Mikael Williams, Bryce Huff, Yatir Gross-Matos, and Sam Aquinu. So you have 5 legitimate NFL defensive ends. You need 5 NFL legitimate defensive ends. Beal, Garvin, and Teron Jackson are more flyers. And I would sign a guy like Okoronkwo, who has got more experience than Beal and Garvin and Jackson. He's had more success. And now you're fortified. Now you have 6 defensive ends. If somebody goes down, you're set. You're fortified. So I don't think it's going to cost you a lot of money. I think he's a natural fit for the 49ers scheme. And he's not old. Talking about a 30-year-old player. Most of the reaction from the people in Cleveland was like, wow, I'm really surprised they got rid of him. He was a rotational player for them. But they have their own cap issues. Deshaun Watson trade has put their cap in just a disastrous situation. So they're in cap hell. And it will save them $8 million over the next 2 years on the cap. So he's a cap casualty. And he had a roster bonus of $6 million coming up in August, and that's really why he was cut. But this guy has been a productive player. He was a great productive player at Oklahoma. As I said, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. He won the Super Bowl with the Rams, and he's a rotational defensive end who's got experience in the wide 9, who's only 30 years of age, who's a great guy, great locker room guy, great tone setter, practices hard, plays hard. Okoronkwo, I really think, would be a great fit for the 49ers in a lot of ways. They have the need, when you look at their depth chart, their depth chart just screams out, man, they desperately need another defensive end. Garvin is not really he's not really going to do the job. Teron Jackson, I really do like him, and Beal's got some traits. But if Beal was going to do it, he was a 2023 5th-round draft choice. It's now 2025. I get the feeling that if Beal was going to be good, he would have shown it by now. And you could probably say the same thing about Teron Jackson and Garvin. So I kind of think the Niners are one defensive end. You say, what do the Niners need to get over the top? They need one more pass rusher. I think they probably could use one more experienced defensive back, though I'm willing to wait until after the preseason to see how it all shakes out. And then I think they could probably use one more receiver. Especially with Ayuk going to miss probably a couple months and no Debo. One more receiver, one more DB, one more guy up front to rush the passer. And Okoronkwo could be that guy. So, to me, he's a good fit for the 49ers. He's not going to cost you anything. He's got knowledge of your scheme. You've got tons of motivation. The Ram, he was a Ram. Now you could have him going against the Rams, your chief competition in the division, twice a year. As I said, he's not old. He's got experience in the scheme, and he's a great guy who's got a great motor. So to me, the only question I would have is just, is he better than Jonathan Garvin? And the answer is yes. And for that reason alone, he's worthy of having on the roster. Is he better than Robert Beal? I think he is. Is he better than Teron Jackson? My guess is he is. He's definitely more productive and more established as an NFL player. So you got 3 defensive ends on your roster, and you got a veteran that's probably better than 3 of them. He's worth signing. And if you have an injury, he probably makes the team. And even if you don't have an injury, I think there's a very good chance he gives Sam Aquinu a huge run for that final defensive end spot on the roster. And unlike your backup offensive lineman, your backup defensive linemen play in the NFL. So it does matter. You're going to have 10 defensive linemen most likely, 5 defensive tackles, 5 defensive ends. You need all 10 of those guys to be able to play real football. And I think Okoronkwo would be a fantastic signing, and you could get him for relatively nothing. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.